All right, let's get started. I think we have quite a few people here already. Thank you so much for joining us. We have people today who are from the Appsmith community, Supabase community, as well as from the n8n community. Really excited to show how these three open source products can work really very well together. So we have Confidence, who's going to be building a support ticket manager using all of these three tools. So let's talk a bit about what is Supabase first. And I'll have Mark come over and talk a little bit more. But so firstly, Supabase is an open source Firebase alternative. And the reason it's amazing is it gives you authentication, a database, a real-time database, and APIs on top of that database. So really almost everything that Firebase does, but Supabase does that using open source technologies, which ensures that you're not locked into a vendor. You can move in and out of Supabase really easily, which is, of course, very difficult to do on Firebase. So I'll let Mark speak a few words here.
Hi, well, thanks for having me. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have to build today. It's going to be a lot of fun. So my name's Mark Burgraff. I'm a senior developer at Supabase. I've been a developer for about 35 years. I actually came to Supabase after having some problems in the Firebase ecosystem. And when I moved over to Supabase and saw what they were doing, I instantly fell in love with the platform because it's a lot of fun to build with. It's super flexible, and it solves a lot of those problems that you have as a developer. Those problems are already solved, and they're solved in a really efficient way. So I just want to talk about what Supabase is. As Abhishek says, it's an open source Firebase alternative. So it's really a group of open source tools that are kind of put together and work together to make a really great developer experience. The developers who put this together are some really sharp guys, and they're obviously longtime developers. So they kind of took the tack of what's going to make my life easier. All those problems that I had developing, how can I make it easier for the next guy so they don't have to go through all the problems that we had? So Supabase is basically a collection of four big sections right now. It's built around PostgreSQL. Now I come from a background, I've done SQL Server, MySQL, all different flavors of SQL. So it's pretty natural to jump into Postgres. But when I first jumped into Postgres, I didn't realize how flexible it is in the ecosystem. First of all, it's the largest open source database out there. It's used by, you name it. Who uses Postgres? People like Uber, Netflix, Instagram, Spotify, Instacart, Robinhood, Twitch, Reddit, NASA. And it's decades of work. So it's a great database, super flexible, great community. The nice thing is if you have a problem or if you have a specific use case, that use case has been hit by thousands of users before. So it's got all the stuff built in. Other people have solved the problems for you. It's got authentication based on GoTrue from Netlify. What's cool is the authentication is built right into Postgres, so they work together really well. Storage using S3 storage, but with a much easier interface put on top. And it's, again, integrated, all the security is integrated into Postgres. So everything works together seamlessly. Functions are coming soon, but everything ties into your main database, your users, your authentication, your storage, your functions, everything is tied into Postgres. So it works cohesively. So like I said, Postgres represents decades of work, completely open source, great ecosystem, huge number of extensions that are written for it.
I was wrong. I did.
GIS is one of the big ones, but it's got anything you can think of. There's an extension for it, and you can build your own extensions and add them with C or many different languages. It's got a great security called RLS, row level security, and the security system's built in SQL. So if you already know SQL and you can write a couple of simple SQL commands, you can write your security policy. So you don't have to learn another system or another syntax or language. And with Supabase, you have full control of your Postgres database. So when I first started, I thought, well, this is nice, but what if I want to connect directly to my database with these great Postgres tools? No problem. You can. It's your database, and the Supabase way of doing things is giving you full control over your database. So you can do whatever you need to do. What's also cool is, since it's a database, they auto generate code snippets. So you go into the dashboard. Once you set up a couple of tables, you go into the dashboard and you want to, add data with the JavaScript API. They give you examples using your data. They've already built the code with your data. So you copy and paste those into your code, and it makes the development experience so much faster and so much more enjoyable. Because you don't have to figure out the syntax and put your data into the syntax. It's really, really slick. When I first saw that, I'm like, why didn't people think of this before? It's really cool. And then once you put a couple of tables together, you get IntelliSense right in the dashboard. So you start typing a SQL command, and the tables that you have are popping up. You choose a table, and the columns pop up automatically. You're like, whoa, this is how it should be. And then I wrote a tool to automatically take my database and auto-generate my TypeScript types. So I had full IntelliSense in my TypeScript code, all automatically. And if I change something in my data structure, I rerun that, and it flags it in my code, and it's so nice. All those tools, I used to write a lot of that stuff by hand. Now it's super, super automated, real easy. So we talked about row-level security. So you're building these security rules, and you're writing it right in SQL, really simple stuff. And then we have templates on the dashboard in Supabase for all the common use cases. So if you're not sure how to write a row-level security policy or whatever, you use one of our templates, and then you look at it and you go, oh yeah, that's easy, I could do that. And then you start extending it. So you're learning as you go. You start with a little bit of a template, and then you're like, hey, I know SQL, I could write this. Let's talk about authentication. I love the authentications. I've written a lot of things. I've written authentication from scratch and put together JWT tokens and tried to do, password recovery and changing. All that stuff's done for you. Not only is it done for you, it's done in a super simple way. We had a hackathon a few days ago, and so I wrote this app called deadoralive.app, where you had to decide whether celebrities were dead or alive based on your knowledge of them. And so I wrote an authentication page with 11 different ways to authenticate. All right. And it took me 1 hour to completely do all the authentication. And I did, I did email authentication, passwordless magic links, Google, Facebook, GitHub, Twitter, Bitbucket, GitLab, Apple, Discord, and Twitch, all in my app, under an hour. And that includes, most of that time is going out to Facebook, figuring out where to put the information in to get the tokens, and then pasting them into my dashboard. Bam, it's done. Mm-hmm. And I actually wrote most of those guides for the third-party authentication. So I actually had to use my own guides to set up the authentication for my app, because you forget, where the screens are in Twitter versus Facebook. So I lead you through step by step. Go to this screen, fill this out, and then copy and paste, and you're done. Super simple, and it's flawless. Not only that, I had a problem in Firebase when a user would authenticate with, let's say, Facebook, and then they'd come in later and then they'd try to authenticate with Google, and you had to merge these accounts, and it never worked right. I had a lot of problems. Well, we use email as a key, and so you can log in with Google, then come back and set a password for email authentication, come back later and authenticate with Apple, authenticate with Twitch, and come back, and you come back to the same account every time. So as a user, it's a really great experience working with the authentication. And it, like I say, super simple, 3 or 4 lines of code to integrate it into your application, and it's done. Let's see. One of the things I didn't talk about earlier that I should have covered is that there's no middle tier, or you don't have to have. You can, but you don't have to have a middle tier in working with Supabase. So that means your client can talk directly to the database, and you set up security policies so that the user only has access to the data you want them to have access to. But that eliminates that middle tier, so you don't have to write the middleware. So I'm used to coming from an environment where every time you want to touch the database, you have to create your data, you'd create your table, and then you'd go and you'd write a middleware piece, and then you'd write a piece from the client to talk to your middleware. Well, we remove that. You talk directly to the database, which does two things. It speeds up the development process because you're cutting out that middle tier. Second, it speeds up the application because there's fewer hops between the application and the data. So you're just going right to the database is processing it and gives you the information back, and you'll see the speed increases immediately when you start working with it. So you also have less infrastructure. Like if your middleware goes down, you're out of luck and your application goes down. So if you remove that, you have a more reliable application. A couple real quick things. The real time is really cool. It uses WebSockets, so you can basically subscribe to a table. You can subscribe to individual rows or individual columns. It's super flexible. So you can say every time this table changes and I'm the user in the user column of that record, push that back to my client application in real time. Really, really cool stuff. Super flexible. And super efficient because you only get the data that you're interested in. You subscribe, you unsubscribe, really slick. And then storage, they've done a super, super great job with storage because if you've ever dealt with S3 storage, it's kind of cumbersome to deal with. And so they put a wrapper on it. So when you go into the dashboard, it's just like working with a file manager in Windows or the Mac. So you open up folders and you can drag files in, you can drag multiple files in. So you've got an object tree. And then for the security on these files, every file has a record in your Postgres database. So you use the exact same row level security to control access to files as you do for controlling anything else in the database. So like when I got to storage, I'm like, well, I already know how to use this because I'm using it for the database. It's really nice. And then coming soon, we've got content delivery network and image transformations and stuff like that. And so all of this is put into a dashboard that organizes all these features, simplifies the tasks for you. So you can create tables and create policies in the dashboard. Really kind of helps you through understanding your project and visualizing your project. They've got all these dashboard tools to show you how much usage you've got, how many users, it's all right there. But if you like the command line or you want to automate things later, you still have complete control and you can do everything you want in SQL or with scripts. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. The dashboard gets you integrated into the environment, shows you how to do things, and then later you can automate that stuff with command line. So if you're a power user, you can do pretty much anything you want. So you have any questions or anything else that you wanted me to cover about Supabase? I'm really excited about it. As a developer, that hackathon was a lot of fun to actually use the tools that we built and see a product come together in like 3 days. It was amazing. It's really cool.
That sounds amazing, Mark. That I didn't realize Supabase is just doing so many more things over Firebase. That sounds amazing. Thank you so much. So in this demo, we are going to use Supabase as a database, but you can also use Supabase authentication with Appsmith. So we're going to probably do a tutorial about it sometime in the future. And I think really excited to see functions go live. That's going to turn Supabase into just like a complete ready product for everything. So that sounds amazing. So let's talk a bit about how we are going to use Appsmith with Supabase today. And so the first thing is you can connect Supabase directly to Appsmith, either by using our Appsmith's Postgres connector or the REST APIs generated by Supabase. Any one of these things is good. Today, Confidence is going to connect directly using our Postgres connector. And then inside Appsmith, you can now build your customizable UI. You can then write all your CRUD queries inside Appsmith itself. We have a native query editor, and you can write all your SQL queries right in there. And after that, you connect your UI and the query response, or you can trigger your queries using the Appsmith pre-built widgets like tables, buttons, charts, etc. right here. And then finally, you can deploy your application. So we think like the perfect stack for internal tools are really these three products put together. First is you store your data in Supabase, use it for authentication. You build your admin panel on Appsmith so that you can manage your data uh, uh, easily and create a good interface for your users to manage that data. And third, you can generate and run all your workflows on n8n. Just these three things together, you'll be able to build almost any single internal tool out there. And that's why we're very excited to just show how these three things work together. Let's talk a bit about what we're going to be building today. So we're going to be building a support ticket dashboard. This is going to be a dashboard which is going to let you see all the tickets that have been created and all their statuses. You'll be able to assign tickets and notify people who've been assigned a ticket. You'll be able to see tickets that have been assigned to you, or the user who logs in, they'll be able to see the tickets that are assigned to them. And finally, you'll also be able to create tickets right from this dashboard. So I'm going to hand it off to Confidence so that he can start building all of this. Over to you, Confidence.
All right. Thank you, Abhishek. So I'm going to share my screen now. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
I can see your screen.
Okay, good. So this is the dashboard we are going to be building today. A quick overview of the dashboard. Taking a look at this, I think this looks really nice because on the home page, we can see an overview of everything happening in the application. We have a count of how many open issues that are critical, how many issues that are overdue, and the total count of open issues, and all the other accounts for data are there. We also have some charts at the bottom here to give us a graphic overview of what is happening in the backend. We have a chart here showing us all open issues by category. We can see those that are in hardware category, software category, and those that are uncategorized. We can also see open issues by priority. We have the low, the medium, and high priority. And we can click on this button right here to create an issue from within the dashboard. This is really useful in situations where the user who is creating the issue does not come to the form on our website or the Google form we have set up to handle creating issues. Probably the user gives the admin a phone call or sends an email. Then it will be the responsibility of the admin to come to the application and fill in this form to create an issue for that particular user. And creating this issue would send out an email notification to the user whose issue this is being created. So we have other tabs in the application. We have the Assign to Me tab, where I can see all issues that are assigned to the currently logged in user, which is me in this case. We have the Open tab and also have the Resolve tab. And for any of these tabs, we can click on the View button to see more information about that issue. So I can see all the information associated with that particular issue. And I can go ahead here to update this. So I can view and update it at the same time. I can also see related comments by heading to the Comments tab, and I can create a new comment. Adding a new comment right here from within the dashboard would send out email notifications to the user who opened up that issue. And we have n8n wired up to handle sending out email notifications. So this is an overview of the dashboard. For the stack, we are obviously using Appsmith for the front end. For the back end, we have a Supabase database set up. It was really easy to set up. So we have two tables. We have the table that has all the tickets, and this can be linked to a form that would bring in data from our website to create this on the database. We also have a table for comments, and these are the comments that are associated to each ticket or issue. Then for the automation side of things, we have a simple workflow configured here on n8n. We have a webhook that receives data and sends out that data as an email notification on Gmail. I'll be showing you how to do this shortly as we go on with building the application. Yeah, so this is an overview of what we are going to be doing today, and we can get started. So right here, I'm on my Appsmith dashboard, and we have some UI layout already on the page. Taking a look at this, we are making use of a tab widget, and we have 4 tabs right now. We have Resolved, Home, Opened, and Assigned to Me tab. We can start by connecting the application to our database on Supabase. So to do that, I'm going to head to the Data Sources pane and create new. Click on the PostgreSQL, and let's call this Supabase base. For the host address, I'm just going to paste this in. And for the port, I'm going to type this in. Moving on, we also want to fill in the default database name. So this is going to be Postgres. I just wanted to make sure if you can hear me fine.
Yeah, conference, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Then for the authentication, I need to put in my database username, which is Postgres, and my password. And I can test this to see if everything works fine and everything looks good. So I can save this and then go on to query the database. The first thing I want to do would be to get all tickets from the database. So I'll click on the new query button and I can use any of these templates to actually create a query. But I'm going to be lazy and let Appsmith generate a query for me. So I'm going to head here where it says public.tickets, click on the add button and click on the select template. So let's call this get tickets. And I'm just going to be grabbing all tickets from the database. Let's test this by clicking on the run button. And we can see that we are returning all tickets from the database. So now I can head back to the application and display this on the app. To display this data, I'm going to be using a table widget. So I'm just going to bring in a table widget and place it underneath the assigned to me. All right, so I'm going to expand this. And this looks good. Now, I want to bring the data coming from the get tickets query and display it inside of this table. To do that, I'll need to write a binding to get the data showing up on this table. So this will be get tickets.data. And we have the ticket data showing up. But since we are in the assigned to me tab, I would only want to show tickets that have been assigned to the currently logged in user. So to do this, I'm going to write some JavaScript here to do that kind of filter. So I'll be using the filter method. And what I want to do is to filter t.assigned to. I want to make sure that the assigned to user is the same as user.email. And if that's true, we would have only issues that have been assigned to the currently logged in user. Taking a look at this tab, although you can see it so clearly, you see that we only have issues assigned to me showing up. We also want to make sure that issues that are showing up on this table are the ones that are not closed. So I need to add another filter. So this will be t.status is equal to, is not equal to close. Sorry about that, CLOSD. Yeah, and that's closed. And here we can see all issues that have been assigned to me, which is the currently logged in user, and are open. Now we can go on to customize this table by adding some customization. I'm going to rename the ID column to tickets. Then for the created at column, which is a date type, I want this to be properly displayed. So I can come under here and set the column type to dates and set the original formatted date and make the formatted date something that looks nice and readable. And here we have a nice and readable date showing up. We can head back and customize the other columns. So I do not want the updated at column showing up. I also do not want the category and assigned to column showing up because that will always be me. One other thing I want to do here is to create a custom column that will be a button such that when I click on it, I'll be able to see more details about the selected ticket. So this will be view. And let's set this to a button type. For the label, I'm going to call this view. And here we have a view button showing up. So I'm just going to make everything look nice by adjusting the column width. And here we have a nice looking table. All right, now we have a nice looking table. So now we want to configure this button such that when it is clicked on, we get to see more information about the selected ticket. And that also includes getting the comments for that selected ticket. So when this button is clicked on, I'm going to enable some JavaScript. I want to do a bunch of things. So I'm going to be running an if right here. So I'm just going to write an if and execute it. The first thing I want to do here is to store the current tickets that was selected from this table, which is table 2, in the local store of the application. So I'm using the store value function. And for the key, this will be ticket. And for its value, this will be table 2 dot selected row. And that is going to store the ticket that is clicked on. And clicking on this button is just going to put this particular ticket in the Appsmith store. Now I can head back to write a query that would bring in the comments for this particular ticket. So let's head back, and here where it says public comments, I'm going to click on the select. So let's call this get comments. And what I want to do is to find the ticket, the comments whose ticket is equal to the ID we are pulling from the Appsmith store. Remember, we stored something right now in the store.ticket, and we can check for that ID. Yeah, so taking a look at this, we can see that we have that ticket coming out. Now I'm going to run this to see if everything works fine. And we're getting the comments for the selected ticket. Let's head back. What we want to do is to display this data. So to do that, I'll be bringing a modal widget. I'll place this right here. Here we have a modal widget. I'm going to set the name for this widget to uModal and the modal type to form modal so that we have more space, and disable scrolling. And I'm just going to clean up this modal by deleting every widget within it. All right, now we have a clean modal. So I'm heading back to the table. And for this view button, aside of storing this value, the next thing I want to do is to actually get the tickets for this particular, get the comments for this particular ticket. So I'll be calling the get comments query. So this is going to be get comments.run. And when this is successful, I will go on to open up the modal. So I'll be using the show modal function. And the modal I want to show up is uModal. And now that's done. So clicking on this is going to get the comments for that particular ticket and open up this modal. And we can go on to build the display for the details of the selected ticket. First thing I want to put here would be a tab widget. And that is because we want to display both the details and the comments. So I'm going to bring in tab widgets and paste it right here. I'm going to expand this. So we're going to have two tabs, one for the details, the next for the comments. And we also want to set a default tab. I'll be pulling this from the Appsmith store. We'll explain later why I'm doing this. So this will be appsmith.store.uModal. And now we can go on to actually display the information about the tickets. So the first thing I want to do is to bring in a form widget because we want to be able to view the ticket information as well as update it at the same time. So I'm bringing in a form widget, and here we have a nice form. Here, I would like to display the ticket ID, so I can grab that from the Appsmith store. So this will be appsmith.store.ticket.id, and I can copy this over. The next thing we would like to display here in the store is the priority. So I'm just going to bring in a text. Let's call this priority. And we want to make this a dropdown. So we have the dropdown right here. I'm going to call this dropdown U priority. All right. And for its default option, we can pull that from the Appsmith store. So this will be the ticket.priority. So that we have the default priority, which is high for the selected ticket. Then for the options, I'm just going to paste in a JSON here that describes the options we want to have on the application. We also need to display a couple of other things. So I'm just going to bring in the widgets to set up the UI for all of this. So we want to be able to display the name. We also want to be able to display the description. We need an input for this. We need to expand this input. We also want to be able to display the status. So this will serve as the label for status. And we need a select for this. I also want to be able to display the priority. Oh, we already have priority in the category. And I'll need the select for this also. Lastly, we want to display the assigned to. So I need the select for this. And we have all the widgets laid out. Now I can expand all of this so that they are taking up all the space and they look nice. This looks nice. And lastly, we have the first text widgets here, and this looks nice. So the first thing we have here is the user. For the user, we can pull that from the store. Okay. I think I need to type this out. So this is going to be appsmith.store.ticket. And I'm just going to copy this over. .user. And then we have the user's email showing up. So I can set some styling for this so that we have a gray background around that particular widget. The next thing I want to do is to display the description. So this is going to be description. And for the input widget, we can update the widget name to say new description. For the default text, we can grab that from the store. So this will be ticket.description. And then we have the description showing up. The next we want to display is the status. So this is going to be status. And for the dropdown, we also want to grab the default option from the Appsmith store. So this will be store.ticket.status. And we also want to set some options for this. So I'm just going to put some options here. And what I want to do is to update the name of this to say new status. Lastly, okay, I think we have one more to go. The next is the category. So this is category. Then this is going to be new category. We can put the default option from store. So this will be ticket.category. And we have some options for this. And we have one more to go, which is the assigned to. So this is going to be assigned to. And for the widget, so let's update this to say you assigned to. Similarly, we're pulling the default option from the store. So this will be assigned to, and we have some options for this. And then we're done with configuring all the widgets we have on the app. I'm just going to place this right here. All right, now everything looks good. So what we can do is to configure the submit button such that when it is clicked on, we actually go to update the ticket that is selected, the ticket in view. So to do that, I'm going to create a query. I'm going to be lazy again and let Appsmith help me create that query. So this will be an update query. And let's call this update ticket. And we can go into pulling all the values from the widgets we just created. But I'm just going to paste in something here, and taking a look at the evaluated value pane, we're actually grabbing the values from those widgets, and they are going to show up here on the query when it gets executed. Now we can head back to the model to wire up the button such that when it is clicked on, we actually do the update. So let's call this update. And when it's clicked on, we want to execute a query. We want to call the update ticket query. But we want to do more than just call this query because we need to close this modal. We need to get the fresh list of tickets coming in from the database because we've made an update. And we need to let the admin user know that the update is successful. So what I'm going to do is to pass in a function that will be executed whenever the update query is successful. So the first thing I want to do is to rerun the get tickets query so that we have the updated data from the database. And when that's done, I want to close up this modal. So I'll be using the close modal function. The name of this modal is umodal. All right. And lastly, I want to let the admin user know that the update was successful. So I can do show alert. And when this is clicked on, we're going to say something like ticket updated. And let's set the alert type to success. Okay, this looks good. Now we can move on to building the view for the comments section. So let's head over to the comments tab. we are currently pulling in the data from the get comments query. So what we need to do is to actually display that data. And for that, I'll be using a list widget to do that. So I'm just going to bring in a list widget. This is right here. Let's expand this. What I want to do right here is similar to what we did for the table widget. I'm going to be binding the data coming from the get comments query so that we have that displayed here.
Confidence, just had a question. Why have you chosen to use the list widget here?
Okay, so this is because we want to display some comments that have a group of other widgets. So to display a comment, I would need to display the author's email, and also the text the author has written. And I'll be using two text widgets to do that. So a list widget makes it easy to group those widgets together and render them a couple of times. So I'll be showing you how I'm doing that right here as I go on building the app.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, so we want to display the author's name. This is a text widget that is already in the list widget by default. So I'm just going to reuse this. So this will be current item.author and also the text for that particular comment. So this will be current item.text. And since they are text widgets, I can just resize this, bring this to the other side and expand this so that we have a nice view of everything. And this looks good. And you can see that the same widgets with the bindings I wrote for the first item has been repeated for the second comment. So this makes it really nice to re-render repeated group of widgets. Now let's set the title for this. So I'm just going to bring in a text widget. It seems I don't have enough space. So resize this a bit, bring in a text widget. That's still not working. Okay. This is comments. And set this to heading 2. And then we have the comment showing up. Now let's add in a button to create new comments. So I'm going to bring in a button, call this new. And when this button is clicked, when it's clicked on, it's going to open up a modal we already have configured to handle creating of comments. So we're going to open a modal and we are going to be opening the comments modal. So clicking on this would open up this modal, and it's very similar to what we did for the details of the ticket. When the button is clicked, we are creating the comments, then we are setting the default view of the details modal to be in the comment section so that we see the comments we just created. We are rerunning this query to get the comments, and then we are opening up that modal. But we want to do one more thing here. It would be nice to actually send out an email notification to the user who created that ticket so that the user knows that an update has been made on the ticket and the user can go and check that. So what we are going to do here is to use n8n to configure that workflow. So let's head over to n8n here. I'm going to create a new workflow. And the first thing I want to do is to add a webhook that would serve as the entry point for the data into the workflow. So I'm going to type webhook. We have a webhook right here. I'm going to set this to a type post, and we have the webhook URL. So I'm just going to copy this and execute this node. Now I can head back to my Appsmith app and connect it to the webhook by creating a new API. And let's call this send email. This is going to be of type post, and I can paste in the URL of the webhook. I'm just going to update this to actually point to the address of the n8n instance. So this will be 192.168.186.111. And that is going to send the request to the right address. Now, what we want to do is to send up some data to the running n8n instance. So the first thing I want to send up would be a message. And for the message, I can just add a test message. We also want to send up the user's email. For the email, we can say something like test@mail.com. And lastly, we want to send up the ticket ID. So this will be ticket. And we can type in some random ID, just like that. And clicking on the run button is going to send this data to the n8n workflow. And taking a look at this, we have some data coming in. I'm just going to turn this to the JSON view, and we can see the data coming in from the Appsmith app. Now that we have this data, I can go on to build the Gmail workflow. So let's bring in a Gmail node. And I'm going to select my auth credential. We are going to be creating a message. So let's select the message resource, and the operation is to send an email. So for the subject, we would need to add an expression. We're going to say something like update on ticket, and then the ticket ID. Now, the beautiful thing with n8n is that we can pull in data from other nodes. So I'm going to pull in the data coming in from the webhook. So this will webhook.output data, JSON, body, and tickets. And taking a look at the results pane, you can see that we have that data coming in nicely. Similarly, we would want to also send in some message. So I'm going to add an expression, go to the nodes, go to webhook, also data, JSON, body, and message. And you see that we have the test message showing up right here. And lastly, we want to send this out to an actual email address. So let's add an email address. So this is webhook, auto data, JSON, body, email. And there we have the email showing up. All right, so everything looks good, and we can save this. Now let's head back to actually sending some real data from the application. For the message, I want to send messages that are passed in as parameters. So this would be a parameter to the function, to this API call. So this will be this dot params dot message. Same also goes for the email. We are going to pass in the email as a parameter to this API call. So this will be this dot params dot email. And for the ticket ID, we can pull that from the Appsmith store. So this will be store.ticket.id. And then we have everything looking nice. So we can head back to the comments modal and add that API call to actually send out the email. So this would be send email.run. And for the first parameter, which would be a function that we want to be executed when this is successful, I'm just going to pass in a dummy function because I really do not want anything to happen when this is successful. Our second parameter is a function that would be executed if this API call fails. And the third parameter is the params we are passing to the function call. So we're going to be passing up a message. And for the message, we can say something like new comments. And then actually adding the comment string, which the user is going to type, or the admin is going to type in into this comments input. So this will be C comments. So we see comments. Dot text. We also want to pass in the user's email. So this is an email. And we can grab this from the Appsmith store. So this will be store.ticket.user, which is the user's email. And there we have the flow for creating a new comment. So I'm just going to start up this workflow by clicking on the execute workflow button, and let us test this out by sending a comment. Let's say something like hello. There. So clicking on this button would, seems I have an error. Let's check this out. Okay. So I'm going to head back to the send email. This looks good. So let's debug this and see why we're having this error.
Can you check the workflow confidence on n8n? If it's on or not?
Yeah, it's working.
There's a problem in the binding. Could you check the post message?
So this is the object I'm sending up. This looks good. Oh, this is the error, where the error is coming from. I have a semicolon right there, so I should not be having that. All right, so everything should work now. So we have the hello there text, and I'm clicking on the button. So this would create the comments, send out the email notification, open the details view, and go to the comment section. And here I can see the comment I just created. I'm heading back to the n8n workflow. We can take a look at this, and we see that the email has been sent. It was sent to this particular user with this message, hello there, and we see everything works fine. Now we can head to the home page and finish up the application. So let's head to the app and go to the home page. Here where we are displaying some start information. What we're actually doing here is reading data from the get tickets query, and we're doing a count of tickets that are older than 90 days. The same also applies to every other number you see here. So what we want to do is to display a chart for issues opened by category. So let's bring in a chart widget. So I'm just going to bring in a chart widget right here and expand this and size this to look nice. All right, for the chart data, I am pasting in a JSON that does exactly what you saw on the text widget. We are doing a count using the get tickets query, and we're counting for things that fall into the hardware, software, and other category. So let's set a label for the x-axis. So this will be category. And this is going to be the issues. And we can make this nice by setting the title and setting the chart type to an area chart. I think a column chart looks better. All right. And lastly, we want to display issues opened by priority. So we'd need another chart widget for that. I'm just going to bring in a chart widget, place it right here. I'm going to expand this and resize this. And this looks good. So we're doing exactly the same thing here. I'm showing up open issues by priority, and we are just doing a count using the get tickets query to see which tickets or the number of tickets that fall into the high, medium, or low category. So this will be priority. And this is going to be issues. And we can set a title for this and set this to a pie chart. And there we have a nice dashboard. One last thing we need to do is to actually bring in a header. So I already have a header widget for the app. So I'm just going to drag it to the top and place it right here. And we are good to go. So the app is ready. And now I can deploy this.
Can you also change the titles for the chat?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Can you change the title for the chat widgets?
Oh, okay. I think, oh yeah, this did not work. So let's head back and do that.
It's on top.
Okay. Okay, that looks better.
I think you misspelled priority.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thanks. Yeah, I love building and debugging together.
Yeah, so you can also set this up. And now everything looks good, so I can redeploy this. And here we have a nice looking app. So this is the Assign to Me tab, the Open tab, the Resolve tab, and we also have the dashboard. I think one thing I'm missing is the button that actually lets us to create a new ticket. So I'm just going to bring this in quickly, type in new, and when this is clicked on, we are opening up a modal. So I'm going to open a modal, and we're opening the create modal, and now everything looks good. So I can redeploy this, head to the home page, and here we have the create flow working nicely. So this is the app. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thanks so much, Confidence. Everybody, we are happy to take any questions about Appsmith, Supabase, or n8n. So please feel free to just either turn on your mic and ask a question, or you can just paste that in chat. Mark, what did you think of this application?
It's really impressive. It's impressive that you could put together an interface like that so quickly with drag and drop tools. That was really, really slick. I enjoyed that. I didn't get the authentication part. How do you log in to say like what's assigned to me? How does it know who you are? Is that built into the Appsmith system, or did you have to build that through Supabase, or how do you handle that?
So Appsmith comes with default authentication for it allows for form login and Google authentication, but we often have people build their own authentication system in Appsmith. We have a tutorial for that. I don't think we have a tutorial specifically for Supabase authentication, but we have one for just that should work for Supabase as well.
Yeah,
it's very.
Henrik, for
very
any
cool.
authentication API, so you could just build an APIs on Supabase and integrate it on Appsmith.
Yeah, it was really cool. I was just as I was looking at that, I was thinking you could lock it down if you authenticated. With Supabase, you could lock it down at the database level by using row level securities, so that there's no way you wouldn't even have to say where the ticket is assigned to me. You could just say, show me all the tickets. And as far as the Postgres would be concerned, it would only show you tickets that were assigned to you because that's handled at the database level. And that would just remove just a little bit. But what you guys showed was very, very cool. I'm excited about it.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we should do a video that takes, do a call that takes into account the authentication features of Supabase and build something around that. That would be super cool, because we have a lot of users who are constantly recreating authentication systems or dealing with row level security themselves. So just using Supabase to do that would be super cool.
Have you looked at the storage mechanisms yet for storing large files with Supabase? That would be a really cool addition to your offering. You could drag and drop files and upload files, and that would be really slick.
Nice. So we have a file picker widget and we have a S3 integration. So I guess Supabase storage should work if you have an S3 integration.
Yep, absolutely. That'd be really easy to implement. Perfect.
Nice. So that's another idea for a tutorial. That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
Confidence, can you also share the responsive UI module on Appsmith? I had a couple of questions from people today.
Sorry, I didn't get to you.
Can you just show the responsiveness of the application that you have built?
Okay, so right now I can share my screen to show you that. So right now we have the application built for the desktop view. So I'm just going to head back and taking a look at this. We have the application built for the desktop view, but we can choose to make this application responsive by selecting a different view to build for a different view, a tablet view, also have a mobile view, and that will just make the application responsive. So we can build for these 3 different views, and deploying the application would make the application work and responsive for each one of these views.
Or the fluid width, which will scale across any viewport.
Yeah.
That's actually perfect, because it also works for large monitors and TVs as well as tiny devices.
So Abhishek, we have one more question. Can Appsmith be white labeled, or can a user remove the Appsmith in this thing when embedding?
When you're embedding, yes, you can remove the nav bar of Appsmith. We have it written in our documentation how to do that. It's pretty simple though. You just write, you just do embed equals true at the end of the Appsmith URL, and you'll have something that doesn't have the nav bar with the Appsmith logo. Replacing the Appsmith logo with something that's yours, that's a feature that's still work in progress for us. We expect to have theming and more control over the UI sometime in September. We're just working on that. We're actually interviewing and talking to our users about how to get that theming and white labeling right. So if you're interested in participating, please join our Discord, and you'll have a few questions on our research channel on Discord. So take a look at that. Vihar, does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Thanks. About the white labeling bit, this is how you do it. You just add !embed equals true to the Appsmith URL. So Confidence, how long did it actually take you to set up Supabase today?
Oh, that was probably the easiest part. So I had my data, and it took me maybe 5 minutes or so to set everything up. I had two tables, the ticket tables and the comments table. And I just needed to click a button to create each of these tables and import the data into the database. So that was really easy to do.
Nice. And how did you get
did
all
you do
that
that
data?
I'm sorry, did you create that in the Supabase dashboard? Did you write SQL queries to create your tables? How did you do it?
From the dashboard.
Oh,
I love using UI, so it was really easy to use the UI to do that.
Super easy. Yeah, awesome. Great.
And how did you import all that data in, all that dummy data?
So I created the data using some JavaScript code and created a CSV file. So Supabase allows you to import a CSV file or a text file. And since I already had a CSV file, I just used that. I imported it in, then specified a primary key column, and that was just all I needed to do.
Nice. Awesome. I think we are at the end of the session. If you have any more questions, Mark is available on Twitter as well as the Supabase Discord, and we are available on Appsmith Discord, of course. And hopefully we can bring out and build more tutorials that use Supabase and Appsmith together. And we'll let all of you know once we have more calls around this. And also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where this tutorial will go live, and all our past tutorials and future tutorials are all on YouTube. So please go take a look at that. All right, thank you all, and we'll see you on a different call. Thanks so much, Mark, and thanks everybody for joining us. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.